How's it going, everybody? There's been a whole lot of craziness going on during the off season as we're about in the halfway point. And just to give you guys kind of a heads up of what's coming in, kind of conversations, topics, YouTube videos, all that kind of stuff. We're gonna be talking about kind of the halfway point. We're about 2 months out of the next season of when, hey, this is when RLCS is going to start up again. So because of that, we're kind of putting a timestamp on it. If teams locked in right now, what would they look like? What is happening to give us kind of insight onto what those teams are? All those types of things are going to be discussed. And the first one we have to talk about is the events. There's been a whole lot of Psyonix sponsored events going on during this offseason, and a lot of them have provided insight to different rosters, different tournaments. We had Flip and Spin, a live event that ended in Paris, France. We had the Latin American Championships. We have Bandit on Wheels 1 and 2. 3 is happening in a few days. We had the Radiant Star Chasers Women event. NA and EU go down with 3 different brackets. The Gauntlet and OCE has been going on. You've got the draw 6, 7, 8 coming up in 3 weeks. Salt Mine NA and EU is now on stage 2. There's been a lot of tournaments. You've also got CRL events going on. So a couple things for us to tune into, a couple things for us to pay attention to of what's all been going down. If you guys are curious about this stuff, kind of a quick crash course on how to do this. If you are interested, first things first, go to Liquipedia. If you are ever unsure where to find information or how to find information, Liquipedia is your best friend. The cool thing about this is they even have a Psyonix sponsored events, and it's all in here. Everything you need. If you want to see what is done, what is happening right now, and what is coming up, and you can filter those by what classification of tournament. I usually go down to C tier. Anything D tier is just kind of like one-off, like $10, $25 weekly stuff that most people don't want to pay attention to. You can even probably get rid of C tier, but some of these are in the C tier. It just depends on like classification of prize pools is the main thing. But you can go and look at these previous results and kind of get an early ideology of who is winning, what's going on. I think we're going to focus primarily on NA and EU and do some pairings with that for this video. And then we'll break down specifics of rosters locking in. The 2 kind of crucial pieces that we mentioned at the beginning of the season. What's happening with Justin? Justin, all eyes are on him. That's the focus. We'll talk about that in a future video. The second thing is what was happening with Rise, what was happening with Monkey Moon. BDS was building around one of those 2. They didn't know which one they wanted to go with. They stuck with Monkey Moon. Rise is now going to K-Corp, and they are easily the best team in Europe. So my quick takeaways from all these offseason events, there's a new king in town. It is K-Corp. And they did that not even with their starting roster. They used Noli, Joseph, instead of the rumored Tao, and they still looked dominant. BDS has definitely got some growing pains, which is to be expected when you got a new rookie. Not everybody can be Zen. Vitality, although still competitive, can bleed. We have finally seen someone take away the stinger from the Hornets, and they are potential to lose. It was a thing that when Vitality played, there was a level of comfort, and they just overwhelmed you. No longer the feeling. People can go toe-to-toe with them. It's kind of awesome. Over in North America, it's a little bit more of a cluster. A lot of focus on 1v1s with Johnny Boy, as always, with the help of Fear and everybody else. We've been also doing a lot of coverage on my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/Lawler, if you want to come hang out, where we've been doing a lot of coverage for the Draw and Salt Mine. The Draw is a little bit different, though, because the focus is primarily on the bubble scene or the up-and-coming teams, but they do invite 4 pro teams. Shopify Rebellion has been trying out just about everyone, whether it be Chicago, whether it be Justin, whether it be whoever. Energy has also been a weird amalgamation of teams. You even have some goofy signups where it's just 3 players from 3 different teams that are like, hey, let's run it. And then you get a team like Clarity that's like, you know what? Let's sign these 3 players. And then 6 days later, we're going to let go of Oath. Also doesn't make any sense. But the nice thing about these teams is we are seeing a lot of the kind of up-and-comers, the ones that haven't quite been signed yet. The rosters that are in that bubble are going to play Gatekeeper. The teams that kind of fill out the rest of the RLCS. The teams that are like 9 through 16, 9 through 24. The ones that you see playing in the closed qualifier, in Swiss. If they win, they then go into the main event. Those teams we're getting a lot of first looks at. Strong ones, Boulevard. Hey Bro has been looking solid with the new addition of Wavy. Hockey, who never gets enough love and attention. Cream's also hit some nasty shots. Young Whippersnappers. Most people don't know any of these players, and they're competing pretty well. Team Zealous just signed. 0-1 is back. You got Nefarious being competitive. So Insane has been pretty solid. A lot of focus on some of the new talent, like Frosty and stuff. I highly recommend tuning into these tournaments in the 1v1 scene. Same as always, as you guys see the list of participants. But if you scroll down to the bottom, Rawas, Moxie, are both incredible. Zen, also incredible. Of course, they find themselves in the finals. The one scene right now is dominated by Mina and France. Ironically enough, Europe is dominated by France. Who would have thought? That continues to persist both in ones and twos and threes. As for North America, it's a little bit more interesting. You are starting to get to see some different names and some different iterations into these tournaments. South American players, European players, North American, all of them are competing. It is that melting pot we're looking forward to. The surprise pick for all of us, though, was that First Killer did make it back in the grand final. For initial, we've still got second stage going on actually right now. That won't finish for a little bit here. But I was happy to see CRR, who got his love and attention from Gamers 8, not this previous year, but the year before he got signed to Complexity, still showcasing that he has it. So it's good to see a little bit of difference. You even see Wavy making a top 4 appearance. There is a lot of competition, some newcomers finally in NA. We all talk about the EU depth and how many rosters that you can make with all these free agents. Still don't know where the heck Astral's going. Still don't know where this player's going. Those types of things. Even like the new roster, what they call Top Cougars, with I think it's like Acro, Relating Wave, and I forget their third, showing competitiveness. So some pretty crazy stuff on the 1 scene that also carries over to the 3 scene. Flip and spin. This was kind of the big focus on the main event. Moist, Joyo, Oli, and Rezi. A lot of people thought this was going to be Joyo, Extra, and third. There's been talks of a Chronic. There's been talks of others, but this team showed promise. This is a team that I think is very, very solid. You finally got to see Oli play like he's been meaning to. When he was first brought in by Violent Panda back on that heroic squad back in the day. You got to see him play loose. Now he's off the G1 squad and able to speak English. I think it's pretty awesome. So you're getting to see a little bit different iterations there. Vitality obviously still proving that they are that team. But this new BDS roster got smoked, if I'm being honest. It was a good series. It was 4-0 for K-Corp. A couple 1-goal games in there. Wasn't too much of a blowout except for that last game, but primarily a chance to see these new iterations on LAN competing, which is awesome. The biggest thing, someone needs to pick up Noli. I don't know how he's still a free agent. I have no idea how NA still hasn't realized that he is a difference maker. The timeline after they won was riddled with Vatira Rise and everybody being like, how has no one picked him up yet? He is so good. It's also crazy because he also was previously kicked from K-Corp. So a little ironic there that they're like, how haven't you picked him up? How have you let him go? When K-Corp literally did that to him back in the day when he played with Astra. Interesting stuff. Either way, EU has got a new king. It is the Carmine Corp team. I'm sure they're very happy with all the dubs they're taking with the LEC signing and everything else we've talked about previously, but wild stuff going on there. Outside of Bandits on Wheels as well, a really fun tournament that if you guys have not tuned into, these showcase those other in between. We talked about Shopify trying with a bunch of different rosters. You've got Nolly and Calm playing with Frosty, and the new focus for NRG. But again, early iterations getting to see some pretty solid rosters. But it seems right now that Shopify spot is probably the most sought after. If I had to guess, that's where Justin's going to go. We'll talk about that again in more detail with a video probably called All Eyes on Justin. Star Chasers, we have the women's scene. Genji continues to be the best. Nothing new there. The former Resolve roster is also still dominant, but they've been mixing some things up too. But good to see some depth in both of those. Over in OCE, more of the same. Pioneers, Power, and Ground Zero iteration. It's those three, it always is. But you do have a consistent fourth in Gremlins. And some names that people aren't going to recognize, which I think is great. Outside of that, then, in South America, we had the Latin American Championships. Go to the Brazil tab, not the Latin American South, but if you go to the Brazil tab, these are most of the rosters that people recognize, Team Secrets, etc. And NIP with a new roster iteration with Swift, who's been doing very well in ones as well. It's been fun to watch. New Secret iteration bringing Fury all the way to 7. NIP competitive with their new roster getting past. Their second event, more of the same. Psyonix sponsored events, these all update. These will be going on the way all through the off season. There's a couple of LAN events and a couple of announcements coming up too. I know Rizzo and JamesBot just announced a 2v2 invite event that will end with a live match at Moist headquarters. So there's a lot of tournaments. I know RLCS has been gone for a long time. I know people are getting antsy. People want to know who's going where and all that kind of stuff, but it is happening. There's a lot of off-season events. So if you guys are trying to tune into those, check out the Liquipedia or stop by the stream. Twitch.tv/Lawler. Any questions? Let me know. We'll try to keep you guys up to date and stay up to date on what's going on. Peace.